So Syntheos Health is about a 24,000 person organization globally. And we uniquely, I think, bring together the ability not just to deliver clinical trials and get regulatory quality data for drug approval, but also to bring in the commercial aspects of drugs, so things like real-world evidence, access to patient and payer information, and really try to create that full value package for a molecule so that it's not just a drug, it's actually going to have the opportunity to get to the patient. And I think that's particularly important now as we think about a lot of rare diseases and cell and gene therapies, where you'll probably do maybe one, at most two clinical trials to get that clinical approval with FDA or EMA. But we have to recognize that different groups, payers, healthcare authorities, HTAs, all have different data needs. And I think for us to be able to wrap around those different data needs around the core of the clinical data set is becoming increasingly important. So for us, it's a tremendously exciting time to be able to bring all of those services together under one umbrella. It's no longer good enough for most drugs simply to have a great clinical package, right? We really need to understand what is the true value of that drug to a patient, what is the value in filling in a gap in care for physicians to deliver to their patients, how are payers going to look at this, how is this drug going to get reimbursed, what are the mechanisms? And it's obviously a particularly challenging environment right now when we think about gene therapies, which have very different curative intents compared to perhaps oral agents that you might be giving repeatedly and you're sort of either delaying or adding into standards of care. So how do we think of the value of something that may remove multiple healthcare costs, but actually itself is a very expensive drug? And of course the timeliness of Novartis' recent approval of a gene therapy for SMA with a price tag in excess of $2 million is obviously creating a lot of dialogue here at Bio and everywhere else. And I think we heard yesterday from Dr. Sharpless about his perception that we really should be more focused on the actual value to the patient and removal of healthcare costs, and not so much on just what is the cost of the drug. So the timeliness of all of this colliding around rare diseases, cell and gene therapies, could be CAR T cells, is really quite interesting to all of us. Yeah, some of these drugs that we're seeing for orphan products will deliver a value to a patient that is perhaps lifestyle changing, even if they haven't been cured of their disease. So their ability to perhaps to be a little bit more independent, to have less of a burden on caregivers around them. What does that value look like? How do you measure that quality of life value, not just to the patient, but perhaps to the community around them? And I think we're only just beginning to get measures that will do that. I know in talking to one of the panel members for a session I'm hosting at Bio here this afternoon, Susan Cantrell, it really is that if we're going to put together a clinical package, bring in other measures, real-world evidence, quality of life, in a meaningful way so we can truly assess the value of that product, not just the clinical benefit that physicians perhaps are used to looking at, but what does it truly mean for the patient and the caregivers around them.